I actually had no idea how large the sector was and, the scale of human trafficking that exists in the world. What do you think it's going to take to really, truly create an intervention for human trafficking? And can you tell us a little bit about the scale that that Dressember has mentioned before?
Yeah, so when we talk about human trafficking, the definition is basically the use of force, fraud, or coercion to obtain either labor or a commercial sex act. So a lot of people, I think, have this vision of human trafficking, in like chains and bondage, and that's really not what it looks like. It's more of like an emotional coercion. Victims often look normal. We even like interact with them in our community and don't even know it half of the time. And a lot of people will say, like, what keeps them from leaving the situation? Like any abusive situation, it's a lot of emotional coercion, as I mentioned, and their trauma and their fear is what's keeping them from seeking help. And as I said, like few of us are kind of equipped to deal with the scale of this problem. And there's all kinds of estimates on how many victims of human trafficking there are currently in the world, but it's really difficult to pull data and put a number on it because it's so underreported, and it's hard to identify. It's a very hidden crime, but it's a very profitable, organized crime situation. So it's estimated that there's anywhere from like 20 to 50 million victims in the world right now. It's also estimated that it's like $150 billion industry. And, like that is the motive for traffickers, the profit. So to combat it, it's really going to take like a holistic approach, right? So you need governments involved, law enforcement, nonprofits. And lastly, I think the sector that is getting more involved is actually the private sector, because traffickers are using, it's right in front of our faces as like bankers or hotel workers or flight attendants. Victims have to be transported. So a lot of airlines are like having their crew take human trafficking awareness like programs and trainings. We work with a partner that does hotel trainings for their staff to identify it. So I think to combat it, first we have to know it exists, and that's where Dressember kind of comes in, is this like awareness piece, just building awareness. You have to be able to identify it, right? You have to know the signs, what to look for, and the people on the front lines really need to know the signs to be able to report it. So I think really what it's going to take is we need to crack the business of human trafficking, and to do that, the business sector needs to get involved, as well as like I said, like more law enforcement, more reporting. As I said, it's very underrepresented, and just everyone taking kind of effective measures to reduce the potential for exploitation in each of our own systems.
In terms of the private sector, what do you think there can be done over there? I mean, is it training to identify what's happening, or what would it really take from the private sector to be able to identify and then, hopefully combat?
Yeah, definitely trainings. When you train your staff on what to look for, they know, the crime, and they can report it, and then they know where to report it. Like, it's not something that is like an urgent 911 call, but there's like a human trafficking hotline, and there's like different ways of reporting it. So I think definitely like doing trainings on identification and then like next steps is really important as well. Yeah.
That's great. So how does Dressember partner with various organizations around the world? And who are some of the organizations that you partner with?
Yeah, so when I talk about that, like $10 million we've raised, which is a big chunk of change, like that makes a lot of impact. So that's in about 7 years, and we focus in 3 areas. So we focus on prevention, which is really important because, it's kind of like cutting it off before it gets to that point. So certain groups are more vulnerable to becoming victims of trafficking. And one of them specifically in California is foster youth. So like one of our prevention programs educates foster youth on, again, like a training and risks and identifying trafficking. Also within prevention, like I said, are all of those trainings with our partner that does hotel trainings, hotel or hospitality industry trainings, as well as we launched a partnership with Lyft earlier this year to train their drivers to spot trafficking in Florida around the Super Bowl. Any kind of like big tourist destination is going to be more prone to trafficking because there's a demand for it. So we have the prevention piece and then the actual intervention piece, which a lot of people, I think, when they think about anti-trafficking programs, they think intervention, they think rescue, like, going in like guns blazing, like, which isn't normally how it looks, but that's like empowering, law enforcement and organizations to actually conduct rescues, which are very costly. So our intervention partners, primarily International Justice Mission, which is the world's largest anti-trafficking organization. So we work with them in India, in South Asia, and primarily, like I said, on rescues. They're working with Border Patrol, and we've also worked with Thorn in the past, who is another intervention partner of ours that developed a tool to spot like online cyber child sex trafficking. So basically, a lot of child cyber sex trafficking is done online. It's done on the web. And at one point it was Craigslist, and then it was Backpage, and that got taken down, and now it's coming back up. But basically, this tool scans the web for these ads for children, and then sends them to law enforcement to take next steps. So that's prevention, intervention, and then lastly is our protection programs. So this is for survivors that are, on their restoration journey from being trafficked and making sure that they don't get back into trafficking. So just providing support services, job training, case management, and that, unfortunately, with COVID is where we're seeing a lot of kind of like fallback is survivors that are losing their job in the US, specifically as a result of COVID. We work with one partner specifically in New York City that works with survivors, and about 80% of their survivors have lost their job as a result of COVID and experience maybe one of three vulnerabilities of immigration. So they don't have access to like government services as we do, or they're a single mom. So they're just incredibly vulnerable to getting back into a trafficking situation. So just really trying to support them. We launched a COVID campaign earlier this year in March to just provide like emergency relief support for them. And yeah, like our protection programs, as I said, are there to provide that really necessary final step, because it does take all three, right? Prevention, intervention, and protection to end this. Like, right. Not one program is going to combat human trafficking, and that's like why at Dressember we have 15 partners doing totally different kinds of work, all kind of toward the same goal. They're geographically spread out in the US, internationally. Some work with children, some work with adults, because I think I might have mentioned this earlier, trafficking does not discriminate. It is not exempt from any community. It's happening here, it's happening abroad, it's happening to children, it's happening to adults. So yeah, our approach is just to take the most like holistic and sustainable approach, and making sure that our funds that are raised by our community are like being maximized and put to the best use.
So how does one get involved in Dressember? What can all of us do to be a part of that amazing event?
Yeah, so our campaign is open year round. You can sign up on our website. It's just Dressember.org, or if you want to go directly to fundraise, it's Dressember.org/fundraise. You can start a page there. You can do like birthday fundraisers, or if you're hosting an event, like your page is there. And then December is the actual style challenge, where you commit to wearing a dress or a tie. And that's really when our advocates are like sharing so it's like a social media profile. So you share your URL, it's linked to Facebook, so you can fundraise on Facebook. You can do it via email. Some people don't even use social media at all. They're like just asking family and friends in person. So everyone fundraises a bit differently. But yeah, so the page is on our website. You start that, you add a photo, you add a blurb while you're participating. You wear a dress every day, and we have advocates that raise anything from $50 all the way up to $20,000. So it just you would be surprised how many people will support you in something that you're passionate about. So yeah, and then that leads us up to January, which is National Human Trafficking Awareness Month.
For sure. Viewers, thank you for joining us this week. We hope our Facebook Live series are inspiring you to make change with CoinUp. We invite you to coin up for Dressember by clicking on the link in the caption below. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon.